The Lean Startup provides a framework for supercharging any startup. But Eric Ries didn't write this book just for 20-somethings innovating in their dorm rooms. There's something to take out of this book for organizations of any size, but you might have to do some digging. Toyota refined and revolutionized manufacturing with their take on just-in-time production and lean manufacturing as early as the 1930s. Eric Ries clearly takes inspiration from this, not only in the title of the book, but also using Toyota's distinctly Japanese phrasing throughout the book. Suitably then, the core takeaway of this book is what Ries calls the engine of growth. The main drive shaft of this engine is the build, measure, learn loop. The concept is simple. In any startup, we want to build something, measure it, and learn from those measurements before we build again. The faster we can repeat this loop, the faster we can grow and the more we can learn about our product and our customers. It's a simple concept, but even the simplest things can be very difficult to put in place in the real world. And this is kind of obvious. Ries talks about a lot of case studies and, to his credit, his own failures. Coupled with this, he does include ways to handle the challenges that he's faced. One tip that I particularly enjoyed was the 5 whys. This is a technique used to find the root cause of a problem faced by a team and make proportional investments in time and energy to prevent that problem happening in the future. It's like channeling your inner 5-year-old and asking the question why over and over again. But at each level, we make this investment into the problem. So here's an example I made up, and forgive me while I read it off my computer screen. Let's say we get a complaint from a customer, we're building software and an automated email hasn't been sent. So question 1, why wasn't the email sent? Well, the email scheduling system stopped because the user tried to schedule an email in the past. The proportional investment is to fix the system code to ensure that it restarts if it ever unexpectedly stops for whatever reason. So this is where we solve the immediate problem. But let's go a step further. Let's ask, why did the system stop unexpectedly? A third-party API, for example, returned an error when a date in the past was used. So the proportional investment here then is to update the API call and that code to handle errors and report those issues to the customer or to the UI or the front end. And let's go a step further. Why was a date in the past used? Well, the UI allowed a date to be entered or any date to be manually entered. The proportional investment here is to update the UI to only allow dates in the future and then to validate server side. Now let's go a step further and we'll say, why did the UI allow dates in the past in the first place? Well, the UI code was written by a developer who has since left the company and they never wrote any tests. So the proportional investment here then is to write tests for that UI code and investigate the rest of the code that developer may have left behind. So this is kind of solving one particular cause of this problem. But we'll go a final step into the 5th why. So why is inherited code not tested properly? Well, we have no standard operating procedure to handle inherited or legacy code. And the proportional investment here is to update the procedure to handle this legacy code. At the very least, we need to define an actionable way of doing this. We say at the very least, we ensure that we have functional tests for legacy code. So by asking these 5 questions, we've solved the immediate problem. The emails are being sent again, but we've also uncovered a much bigger problem and we've stopped it from potentially causing larger issues in the future. So I'm quickly going to go over some of the pros and cons in the book. Let's start with the pros. This book could be retitled The Growing Business Bible. It put forward a straightforward and well-defined framework for growing a business and for decision making in most situations. The information here is top class and very valuable. Personally, I think I learned a lot reading this book and I will definitely be applying it myself. However, to be perfectly honest, I think most of the information in this book could be distilled down to a 9-slide PowerPoint presentation, while still retaining 80% of the value. I have a funny feeling that Ries might actually have this presentation on his desktop. Maybe it's my lack of attention span, but I definitely found my mind wandering a lot while I was reading this book. I also ended up reading a lot of paragraphs 2 or 3 times and speed reading other sections. I also felt like the book lacked a voice. I know it's not a narrative, but I really didn't connect with Ries and his writing style. So, while the information is good, it's not gripping, especially when compared to the 4-Hour Workweek. I'm not going to recommend this book to everyone I know. Unlike the 4-Hour Workweek, this book is particularly suited for leaders and decision makers, or at least those of us who aspire to be leaders and decision makers. God knows there are plenty of people out there who are happy to coast along and maintain the status quo, and while a book like the 4-Hour Workweek might motivate them and maybe help them reduce their workload, a book like The Lean Startup deserves a more dedicated and responsible reader. Maybe you run a business, maybe you start a startup, or maybe you lead a team within a larger organization. Maybe you're just testing out a product or a new startup idea. Even if you think you might one day just have that billion-dollar idea, read this book. You will get a lot out of it. Hi, thanks for watching the video. This is obviously the second video and the second book review, so I don't think I'm going to be able to keep up that pace for much longer. So first of all, if you have a suggestion for a book that you'd like me to review, please leave it in the comments, get me on Reddit or get me on Twitter. Beyond that, I think some of the content over the next number of weeks is going to involve a little bit less towards books and more towards the actual practical implementation of what I've read in the books. So I'm kind of hoping to do a little bit on running a lean startup, or at least putting some of the things in place, and possibly some of the tips and tricks from the 4-Hour Workweek as well. So thanks very much for watching.